The loudspeaker clicked on halfway through the Tuesday logistics check-in. We were talking about scanner zone delays near loading dock 6 when the VP's voice boomed overhead. "This is Vice President Craig Renner," he said, sounding bored already. "Effective immediately. Karen Ellis is being terminated for cause. Security will assist her exit. All access will be revoked within the hour. No warning, no explanation. Just that." The room went dead silent. Nobody turned their head. Not even Marcy, who I trained back when she couldn't tell a batch scanner from a barcode gun. She just stared at the floor, cheeks burning like it was her name called. Craig didn't even say my name right. He hit the Ellis hard, like I was already a case file. "Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from?" Anyway, there it was. They finally pulled the last thread. I was the last one from the original systems team. Everyone else had already been restructured out over the last year, always quiet, always after hours. I knew mine would come different, louder, crueler. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, kept my hands low and open, and gave a tight nod to the room. No one said goodbye. No one made eye contact. Cowards. My desk was near the break room, tucked under that busted fluorescent light that never stopped humming. I opened my bottom drawer and pulled out the go bag I'd packed 5 days ago. Laptop cable, burner phone, flash drive, notebook. That was all I needed. They didn't even send security. Just some intern with a clipboard, standing 5 feet back like I might start screaming. I gave him a smile that meant nothing. I walked slow, calm, no shaking hands. I even scanned out with my badge, just to be petty. This place used to matter. We built everything from scratch. No vendor systems, no help desk in India. We wrote the damn logic that ran their inventory flow. Then Craig came in, waved his Six Sigma cert around, and started calling us interchangeable components. I remember that word, interchangeable. Said it like he was talking about Legos. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I already made my move. Quiet, clean, days ago. By the time my badge stopped working, I was already out the door, holding a plain brown box with a cracked coffee mug and my old lanyard. Nothing worth stealing, nothing left behind, except one tiny line of code. The intern led me through 2 security doors and past a vending machine that hadn't been stocked since March. We stopped in front of one of those fake modern conference rooms with frosted glass and a loose handle. A whiteboard on the wall still had Q2 onboarding, scribbled in blue marker, half erased. Inside, HR was waiting. Her name tag read, Kelly, mid-30s, soft smile, shaky hands. "Hi, Karen," she said, like we were old friends meeting for lunch. "Thanks for coming in." I sat down without answering. There was a white envelope on the table already, positioned like it had been rehearsed. A second, thinner sheet was clipped to a manila folder in front of her. Her fingers hovered over it, hesitant. "So," she said, eyes darting toward the frosted glass behind me, "this is just our standard offboarding package. It includes a release agreement, NDA, and confirmation of, device return." I nodded once. "Tablets in my bag." "Okay, great." She gave a nervous smile and slid the envelope toward me like it might bite. "You'll need to read through and sign the second page, and I'll need to collect your tablet before you go." I reached into my bag and pulled it out, holding it in both hands like I was about to hand over a newborn. "I need 5 minutes," I said, "to shut down my scripts. They're live in dispatch." Kelly blinked. "Oh, I think we're supposed to." "They're not external, they're local automation scripts. Not shutting them down could cause a duplicate batch in tonight's late queue. You want to explain that to the VP?" She looked down at her folder like it might contain instructions for this exact situation. It didn't. "Okay," she said finally. 5 minutes." She stood and left the room, heels clicking too fast against the floor. The second the door closed, I tapped the tablet awake. No password reset yet, no revocation. Idiots. I opened the delivery suite I'd written from scratch 6 years ago, before they ever brought me on full-time. Still ran off my original routing logic, patched together with vendor junk and warehouse jank. They'd been duct taping it ever since I stopped consulting and took the internal role. I navigated straight to Route Main Archive 15. Nobody ever checked that folder. The note inside was titled Old IR Scanner, flagged obsolete 2022. I opened it, stripped out 2 deadlines of tag data, and deleted a sentence about a deprecated IR94 device. Then I added 3 invisible metadata flags to the update header, Inside that metadata, a reference to a non-standard module, one I'd written myself, a tiny routing package that linked to a vendor tool still live on their system, one I'd never sold them, one that had never been officially licensed. My name was buried in the signature block, time-stamped, tagged to the LLC I used back when I was just a contractor. Then I pushed the update and logged out. Simple, clean. It looked like janitorial work, no red flags, no alerts. I slid the tablet across the table and waited. A minute later, Kelly walked back in holding a paper cup of water like she'd just run a mile. "All done?" she asked. I nodded. She looked relieved. "Great. So if you can just sign here, we'll process final pay within 14 business days. And again, thank you for your contributions to the team." I signed, handed her the pen, and stood up. She walked me to the door like I might try to run. Back down the hall, past the vending machine again. The intern was gone now. Good. I didn't need an escort. As I passed the bullpen, I saw my old manager duck into the kitchen like he hadn't seen me. Two software devs suddenly found their monitors fascinating. Nobody said a word. Nobody looked up. Fine. I walked straight to the exit, pushed open the glass door, and stepped out into the late morning heat. My bag was light, lighter than it had been in years. Whatever they thought I'd built for them, it wasn't theirs, not all of it. Not the part that mattered. And now it was live. I didn't go anywhere after I walked out, just headed straight back to my apartment over the pawn shop on Cypress and 4th. The air upstairs always smelled like warm dust and the burnt plastic from the vape place 2 doors down. I dropped my bag on the floor, kicked off my shoes, and sat cross-legged on the old futon with a container of cold sesame chicken. I didn't even bother microwaving it. My laptop was already open on the coffee table, one hand on the chopsticks, the other tapping through headlines. On Track Logistics finalizes $175 million acquisition deal. New tech vision driving expansion into national warehousing. Craig Renner leads mid-tier logistics firm into the future. Craig was everywhere, shaking hands, posing for pictures, standing with that forced smile like he'd personally reprogrammed every scanner in the place. Same guy who once asked me if backend meant the rear storage zone. I kept scrolling. More fluff pieces, internal leaks. Slack screenshots dumped onto Reddit. Someone posted a photo of the VP standing next to the new investor banner, arms crossed like a GQ ad. The whole company was buzzing, half pride, half fear. A message pinged in. "You okay?" 2 minutes later, "That was brutal. I had no idea." Then another. "Karen, did you do something?" I didn't reply. They wouldn't get it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't wrecked. I was just done playing by their rules. The commit went through. I saw the system notes. It passed their weekend review check without a flag. Of course it did. I knew exactly where to bury it. Just deep enough that only someone obsessive would dig past the surface. And even then, they'd have to know what they were looking at. To the untrained eye, it looked like cleanup. Some tag tweaks, a reference deletion, admin hygiene. But underneath, that was mine. My module, my logic, my fingerprints from back when I was still contracting under KE Systems, LLC, before they ever brought me on staff, and they never signed over rights, never even asked. They thought because I was salaried later, they owned everything from before. They didn't. I hadn't broken anything. I hadn't sabotaged their sale or planted a virus or burned the codebase to the ground. I just flipped on a light. I let it breathe. And if someone smart decided to look at that one little change, follow the thread, check the commit trail and the vendor logs, they'd see it. Until then, I waited. Fork tapped against the takeout container. I watched a live stream ticker count down to their investor Q&A. The background music was all triumphant synths and fake optimism. My inbox buzzed again. "Did you see the news? Craig's giving a keynote next week." "They're saying there's a full rebrand coming." I muted the notifications. Let them dance. Every minute that module kept running, they were walking a tighter and tighter line. All it would take was one buyer-side engineer with a habit of checking undocumented commits before final integration. Just one. And then the questions would start. I leaned back, finished the last of the chicken, and set the empty container down next to an unpaid gas bill. Everything I needed was already in motion. I didn't have to do a damn thing now. Just sit still and wait for someone else to realize what they'd missed. The next afternoon, while I chewed on a half-stale protein bar and refreshed the investor news tab for the 5th time, a guy named Mason Alvarez sat 3 states away in a windowless corner office in Indianapolis. Senior technical officer. 26 years in logistics infrastructure, wore his glasses low, typed like a piano tuner. He wasn't on any press calls, wasn't shaking hands, didn't care about Craig or the banners or the flashy launch videos marketing was pumping out like candy. Mason had a habit, one the others rolled their eyes at. Every time they were about to acquire a system, before the signatures hit paper, he opened up the back end and sniffed around, not looking for bugs, looking for weird. And that afternoon, he found one. The commit was too clean. No issue ticket, no reviewer sign-off, no red lines. Just a neat little push tucked into a dusty part of the route archive, time-stamped 2 hours before a senior staffer got fired. He clicked it open, cleanup note, 2 tag edits, old scanner reference removed. Didn't smell right. Mason sat forward, adjusted his glasses, and scrolled slower. Nested inside the header metadata was a pointer, a module link. Short, obscure, not documented in the main pipeline. IR 94 redirect/vendor flex mod. He blinked, clicked. The module opened, fully operational, embedded in their active routing logic, and yet nowhere in the inventory docs. No vendor licensing information, no purchase order, no compliance tag, just raw logic. Still running, still live. Mason didn't say anything, just opened another window and started tracing the commit path. Name on the commit, K. Ellis. Account type, contractor. Organization tag, KE Systems LLC, role at time of push. External consultant, archived status. Termination record, 2 hours later. He leaned back in his chair. That module wasn't just undocumented, it was foreign, dropped into production by someone who no longer worked there, and may never have transferred ownership rights in the first place. Mason exhaled slowly through his nose. He didn't panic. He didn't call Craig. He didn't send an email to the operations team. He pulled up a licensing flowchart and started building a chain. Every vendor module had to be cleared through their in-house legal tool. Green flag meant licensed. Yellow meant pending. Red meant trouble. This one wasn't flagged at all, because it wasn't registered. Mason checked the deployment logs. The module was used in 7 key workflows: inbound inventory, returns verification, dock-to-dock rerouting, and vendor auto-pull queues. Heavy hitters, operational glue. He opened a compliance tab and started digging deeper. No purchase record, no transfer agreement, no sign-off from internal systems or finance. And the original commit? Tagged with her LLC. She'd never signed it over. Not in the consultant record, not in the HR system, not even in the early onboarding scans. Mason stood up, cracked his back, and walked 2 doors down to legal. I've got something, he said. Legal raised an eyebrow. How bad? Depends, Mason said. You ever hear of a module called Vendor Flex Mod? No. Yeah, that's what worries me. 10 minutes later, they were mapping ownership trails and pulling up every contract her name ever touched. I didn't know any of that at the time. I was still on my couch, still barefoot, watching some YouTube talking head breakdown, the top 5 most ambitious logistics acquisitions. Like it meant something, but I felt it in my chest. This shift in the air, small and electric. Someone had finally noticed. Someone with the right access. Someone smart enough not to yell. He was doing exactly what I hoped, following the wire. The next morning, their building looked like a damn movie set. Cables snaked across the warehouse floor, big white lights mounted to tripods, folding tables stacked with promo merch, mugs, lanyards, little foam trucks with the new logo. Delivering the future banners hung over every roll-up door, fresh from the printer. Still smelled like vinyl and cheap ink. Craig strutted through the chaos like he owned the planet. Press badge swinging from his neck, shirt tucked sharp, blazer crisp. He stopped to shake hands, flash that fake smile, toss a quick joke to a camera crew like this was his moment. His legacy? He had no idea. Upstairs, the acquiring team was already on a secure pre-brief call. Big names, legal, infrastructure, communications. CTO present. Only thing was, he wasn't smiling. The buyer's CTO, a quiet guy named Leonard, sat with his arms folded and a shared screen paused mid-scroll. He hadn't said a word in 4 minutes. On that screen, my commit log, legal was already whispering. First internal, then external. Craig didn't see it. He was too busy rehearsing talking points by the product display table. Something about cross-vertical integrations, some nonsense line he stole from Forbes. Down the hall, someone from compliance sent out a flagged thread. 2 attachments: my name, my commit, the path of the module, no license doc found, no transfer clause confirmed, still running live. That word, live, hit the thread like a gunshot. The routing module was embedded in their entire inbound scanner flow. Every order through the back dock still touched it. Every vendor match pinged it. Every barcode routed through logic I'd written under a different name. Before Craig ever joined the company, legal dug faster. They pulled the original contributor agreement from my contractor days, no mention of ownership assignment, no clause giving them rights to derivative logic or embedded packages. It wasn't a gray area, it was red. And that module? It had my digital signature, tied to a still active LLC registered in Nevada. They'd never even tried to update the attribution, just assumed it all belonged to them. One of the legal reps finally said it out loud on the call. "We don't own this." Back downstairs, the interns were still running HDMI to the AV booth. One of them tripped over a cable and nearly dropped a streaming cam. Craig waved it off with a laugh. He still didn't know. But upstairs, the cracks were spreading. One of the product leads dipped out of the meeting early. Another pulled up all scanner dependency trees and started mapping risk. Finance flagged the cost of replacing the module. Dev tried to estimate the time to rewrite the flow from scratch. It wasn't good. The buyout team had built their pricing on clean tech. This wasn't clean. This was contaminated IP running live, owned by someone else. And it was about to hit air. The stream went live at 10 on the dot. Craig stepped onto the little platform they'd thrown together in front of the pallet racking, his face stretched into a CEO wannabe grin. The company backdrop flapped a little from the AC vents, but he didn't notice. He had a mic clipped to his lapel and a stack of notes he'd never actually read in his left hand. "Good morning, everyone," he started, voice way too smooth for a guy who couldn't name 3 functions in the system we built. "Today marks a defining moment in our company's journey." He kept going. Integration, scale, future-ready solutions. All the nonsense buzzwords someone in comms probably fed him. Cameras rolled, staff clapped politely. One of the interns hovered nervously behind the stream desk, finger twitching near the mouse. 3 minutes in, right as Craig launched into the team-driven culture of innovation spiel, Leonard raised his hand. Buyer side CTO. Still seated, no emotion on his face. Just lifted one hand, slow and deliberate. Craig paused, smiled, a little confused. Yes, Leonard?" Leonard didn't blink. "I'd like to share my screen for a moment." A short silence. Someone clicked to let him through. The moment his screen replaced the slideshow, everything shifted. White background, a code diff window, highlighted lines, commit hash, username K. Ellis. Leonard cleared his throat. "Can someone explain this?" Nobody answered. The intern's hand hovered, then dropped to the desk. Mouse untouched, stream still running. Leonard kept going. This commit was made 2 hours before the termination of one Karen Ellis. No issue number, no review, no internal comments, no compliance ticket, just a note labeled cleanup. He zoomed in on the tag header. But what caught my eye was this. He clicked once. The screen jumped to a module path. ER94 redirect/vendor flex mod. "Undocumented," he said, "still live in production, tied to inbound routing and dock-level scanner logic." No one moved. Craig opened his mouth, then closed it again. A faint smile twitched at the corner like he didn't understand the rules of the game anymore. Leonard didn't wait. "This module is dependent on a private repository, external to your documented system stack. It has no license trail, no vendor attribution, and according to our review, it was authored by a contractor under a separate LLC. Another click. A contributor record opened. KE Systems, LLC, status, active. No assignment of rights filed, no transfer agreement in HR logs, no handoff documentation. Yet this code is currently operational inside your critical warehouse routing systems." He turned his head slightly. "It is not yours." You could have heard a paperclip hit the floor. Then came the chaos. Legal Slack lit up like Christmas. Messaging internal, messaging external, messaging back again. 3 people typing at once, no replies sent. The finance head looked like someone unplugged him, just lowered his eyes and stared at the floor, like if he didn't move, maybe it wouldn't be real. The head of product stood up, whispered something to the assistant beside her, and walked off camera. Never came back. Craig finally spoke. We. We can clarify all of this after the stream. Leonard shook his head. There's nothing to clarify. You're using proprietary code without authorization. A beat. Then someone, maybe the intern, hit mute. The stream froze mid-sentence. That same delivering the future banner in the background caught in the frame like a bad joke. Inside the warehouse, the energy cracked. Executives with phones pressed to their ears. Staff whispering behind monitors. Someone kicked a folding chair and muttered, "Jesus Christ," under their breath. And Craig just stood there, mouth open, holding a script that no longer mattered. All the lights still pointed at him. But the spotlight wasn't his anymore. Legal found it within the hour. An old contributor agreement, scanned and half-faded, sitting in a dusty shared drive labeled HR Archives Old. My name right at the top, Karen Ellis, operating under KE Systems, LLC. Status, contractor. Scope, logistics automation consulting. And buried in the fine print, no assignment of ownership. The clause was there, bold as hell. All intellectual property developed under this engagement remains the property of the contractor, unless separately negotiated in writing. No amendment, no override, no signatures after that. They never closed the loop. And now? That little module Craig's team had built their entire scanner logic around. That routing package tied to auto-verification queues, DocSync, order reconciliation, and vendor pull timing, it was mine. Not metaphorically, not morally, legally. Any use without my sign-off meant breach of contract. And since it was still live in production, it wasn't just a contract problem, it was IP theft. Plain and simple. Upstairs, the lawyers went pale, then red, then quiet. Someone tried to argue it was a shared system, maybe built collaboratively. Didn't hold. Every commit on that module tracked to my name, every line authored, every flag tied to my repository. They never even recompiled it. Just lifted it whole and dropped it into the main environment like nobody would ever check. Now they were staring down triple indemnity if I filed. That meant triple damages for willful infringement, and with the module touching so many core operations, it wasn't a simple patch job. They couldn't just rip it out. There was no backup, no fallback logic. I'd written the original flow before Craig ever joined the company. Before there was even a systems team, back when we were wiring barcode guns to refurbish servers on folding tables, the CTO didn't waste time. He turned to the acquisition counsel straight-faced and said, "The deal is paused pending remediation." No drama, just those 6 words. Craig blinked like he didn't hear him right. "What does that mean?" "It means you can't sell us a company that's using stolen software," Leonard said. "It's not stolen," Craig started. "It is," one of the buyer's side legal reps cut in. "If there's no transfer and it's deployed in live production, you're exposed. Badly." Craig looked around the room, trying to find someone to back him up. Nobody met his eyes. Downstairs, the branded banners still hung limp, lights dimmed, the press crew packed up silently. Someone peeled the "Delivering the Future" poster off the entrance glass and folded it like trash. Craig looked smaller now, suit still perfect, hair still sharp, but his posture cracked, shoulders dipped, hands twitching like he didn't know what to do with them. He tried again. "We can negotiate access." "You don't have anything to negotiate," Leonard said. "You don't own it." The room stayed quiet after that. Just keys clicking, files closing, call ended. No handshake, no champagne. Just a paused deal, a flagged system, and a VP unraveling in real time, while the foundation he'd bragged about 24 hours earlier crumbled underneath him. All I'd done was pull back one layer, the rest fell by itself. I was still in my sweats, sitting on the same damn couch when the first email landed. Subject, availability for short-term consulting, urgent. From an unfamiliar address at the buyer's parent company. The body was short, no greetings, no names. Just a request to confirm if I was available to assist in assessing legacy scanner architecture, particularly the KE Systems routing layer. They didn't even pretend it was casual. 5 minutes later, another came in. This time from legal. "We're seeking clarification regarding authorship of a specific vendor module, IR94 redirect/vendor flex mod, currently operating within live routing infrastructure. Please confirm whether your company retains exclusive rights to its logic, licensing, and distribution." The wording told me everything. They already knew the answer. They just needed it in writing. I didn't respond. Not yet. Another 2 minutes passed. Then came the one I expected. From Craig. Well, his assistant, but his name was on it. No intro, no subject line fluff. Just, please review the attached consulting proposal. I opened it. 6 pages, legal boilerplate, a scoped engagement agreement, legacy system assessment, module reintegration, and continuity planning. All the usual language. At the bottom, the rate. Triple what they used to pay me. No apology, no outreach, no explanation. Just a number. Desperate money. That's what made me smile. I set my coffee down, pulled up my reply window, and kept it tight. Market rates apply. Full authorship credit, prepaid. I hit send. 10 minutes later, the reply came through. One line, accepted, no edits, no counter, no call to touch base, no plea to do it as a favor, just yes. That was when it sank in. They weren't trying to be nice. They weren't trying to save face. They were trying to stop the bleeding, because now they understood. I wasn't a leftover. I wasn't headcount. I wasn't the one they quietly pushed out. I was the foundation. And now they could either deal with me directly or watch everything they built come apart in slow motion. The press stream never came back. For a while, the link just spun. Then it got replaced with a gray placeholder that said, pending review, check back soon. But it never came. By noon, the company site was stripped bare. No banners, no announcements, no handshake photo with the buyer. Just a quiet update on the leadership page. Craig Renner is stepping back to reassess leadership priorities during this transition period. They didn't even try to dress it up. The interns disappeared from Slack. One of them nuked their LinkedIn. Another switched their profile to open to work before lunch. And in the dev channels, quiet whispers. My name passed around like a warning. Heard it was her module. She built the original route logic. No transfer agreement. Just gone, like a trapdoor. I sat on the couch and sipped my coffee. Nothing fancy, just drip, still hot. The consulting agreement was signed, my terms accepted, the deposit already hit. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. There was no victory dance, just stillness. They thought they'd buried me under 6 years of reorgs and budget cuts. They forgot what they were standing on. My code, my structure, my process. It wasn't sabotage. I didn't plant malware. I didn't pull a plug. I opened a window, let sunlight hit what they wanted to keep in the dark. Now they could see it, all of it. And to move forward, they needed me, not as a footnote, not as a former team member, not as the name they left off the investor slide. They needed me on my terms, so I stayed exactly where I was, on the couch, in sweatpants, with nothing to prove and nothing to chase. The message was already sent, and this time they heard it loud and clear.